Hey, did you know Prince of Persia is back? I remember watching the first trailer for the revival of the prince's adventures known as Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I think it was during Jeff Keighley's Spicy Summer Game Slam in 2023. Yeah, I think that was the name of that event. Anyway, this is a recreation of my real, genuine reaction to that trailer. Let's take a look. What? What is this? Huh? Modern rap? You don't even play as the prince? Who made this game? This looks terrible. What? Why would they do this? Why would they ruin my favorite series? What a train wreck. After that trailer, I'm certain of two things. Number one, nobody will buy this game. And number two, this will definitely not be one of my favorite games of 2024. Well, one of those predictions was correct. First, a little history. The very first Prince of Persia was a side-scroller adventure game published in 1989 by a company named Broderbund. Helmed by Mr. Jordan Mechner, the game was quite revolutionary for its time, receiving critical acclaim for its robust movement and fluid traversal animations. The premise was simple. Good prince, captured princess, bing bing wahoo. Wahoo! The high-quality traversal animations were thanks to rotoscoping. One of the team members was recorded doing various parkour tricks, and he served as a base for the model of the prince. Nowadays, we are seeing rotoscoping make a bit of a return, especially within the indie game scene, but at the time, it really set the game apart. After a few games in a similar vein, the series was bought in 2001 by a pre-inshittening Ubisoft and rebooted into a little-known game called Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time. A 3D adventure game this time, with an extremely unique time reversal mechanic, and a heavy focus on a story full of intrigue and sand. Now, this is where shit gets wild. Just like the original Prince of Persia revolutionized 2D movement, Sands of Time innovated the 3D platforming space with creative implementation of free-running into the normal moveset. You could run up walls, run along them, run down, run through, okay, not that one. It was pretty insane to have this degree of control over your character, especially at the time. And these games went on to influence how many different games handled their movement in the future, with most direct examples being, of course, the Assassin's Creed series, which basically replaced the Prince of Persia series for a long time. Now, I do want to mention that I grew up on the Sands of Time trilogy, so I definitely have a bit of a soft spot for these games, but I believe they would still be enjoyable now, even without the nostalgia. They might feel a little bit clunky compared to more modern games. The atmosphere and the story and the overall vibe of these games is definitely worth experiencing, even now. The Sands of Time trilogy focused on the prince, that's this guy, who is young and a little arrogant. The first game begins with him transporting a big, ornate hourglass as a peace offering to another kingdom. When the prince and his father arrive, the prince is tricked by Jafar into opening the hourglass with the sparkly dagger he found in the castle. What could possibly go wrong? Oh no, you just unleashed the Sands of Time and turned everyone into sand-infected zombies. Man. What a day. The thing that most people remember about these games, I feel, is the power to rewind time that the prince gets thanks to his dagger.
I had what I came for.
This was truly an innovative gameplay mechanic. The dagger would collect sands of time, and if you had any sand charges, you could press a button and rewind your gameplay by a few seconds. It was an extremely useful tool, what with the game's heavy focus on platforming. Anytime you fell down or died to an enemy, there was a little bit of a pause before the game faded out, during which you could press the rewind button and give yourself another chance. The first game established these mechanics and set the groundwork for an intriguing story with a pretty introspective and likable protagonist. Good game all around.
No. That didn't happen. May I start again?
The second game, Warrior Within, was weirdly edgy and definitely less beloved due to its increased emphasis on combat and a lot of backtracking. I think it was very much a product of its time. I mean, this game came out 1 year before... No wonder it was the edgiest thing in existence. I still think the game is fun, and the story actually has some cool ideas, but it's the weakest in the trilogy, in my opinion. The third game, The Two Thrones, dialed the edginess back quite a bit, perhaps as a result of increased backlash. It definitely felt a little more along the lines of the first game, and it was a pretty satisfying conclusion to the trilogy, in my opinion. Also, it had a chain whip and a super sassy version of the prince berating him the entire way through, so it gets extra points.
How do you know my name?
Yes.
I eagerly await your response.
I have heard tales.
See? Now she's going to kill us.
Overall, the trilogy was a great time that I still recommend to all my friends and my enemies as well. Gold star. So, what happens now? So the Prince of Persia was gone for a while there, wasn't it? After The Two Thrones, the history of the series is a little spotty. The 2008 soft reboot was met with pretty mixed reviews. It was a very beautiful game that had a lot of style and a cool story. But many people disliked the lack of a failure state, with your companion always rescuing you when you fall or lose a battle. Personally, I quite like the game for its flowing movement and gorgeous environments, but I can see how some people really didn't vibe with it.
Why are you following me?
I'm not. I'm looking for...
Farah, I heard you yelling. You and your girlfriend should get out of here.
girlfriend? Farah's not my girlfriend. She's my donkey.
Then there was a movie. That was a thing. And then nothing else happened. What? There was another game? Part of the original trilogy? Huh. I played it? You know, I guess I forgot all about it. The Forgotten Sands is a game that exists. It was released on most consoles in 2010. I remember playing the Xbox 360 version and enjoying it enough, at least at the time. I think one of the main problems of the game was the combat, which was much more prominent, but repetitive, even more than in Warrior Within. During the game's development, Ubisoft focused their marketing on the amount of enemies their new engine could render at once. So in the game, you were consistently pitted against loads of enemies, which made the combat a chore. It really doesn't help that this game's story is a complete nothing burger. Or a nothing biryani, if you will. It was technically set between Sands of Time and Warrior Within, but the plot had so little to do with anything that it could really have just been another game entirely. When it released, the game got pretty mid-reviews and sold pretty poorly. Time passed, and the title of the game became a more and more apt description of this adventure. There, the series lay, dormant, buried beneath the sands of time. Years went by, and in 2023, the sand stirred. A ray of hope for the Prince of Persia series. A trailer for a new adventure coming in 2024. And everyone's reaction was, oh god, bury it again.
But we weren't prepared for what was coming next.
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a fantastic Metroidvania experience, and I can't stress enough how much I want people to experience it. It follows Sargon, who is admittedly not the Prince of Persia, but he is searching for the prince, who has been kidnapped. It is a bit strange to have the protagonist not be the prince, but this is something that the game focuses on within the story. I don't want to give anything away, but after finishing it, I can see what they were going for, and I think you will too. The story itself is pretty good, actually. Sargon and a team of elite warriors known as the Immortals try to find the prince in the area of Mount Kaf. But as they approach its vicinity, they realize that the flow of time has broken down. This means that as you play the game, you'll meet people that have spent months or years on this mountain, yet it's only been a day.
Long dead, judging by the rot.
How is that possible? They left not long before us.
It's a cool setting that, in my opinion, carries forward the mystical ideas of the Sands of Time trilogy. Now, gameplay-wise, the biggest change is, of course, the game is 2D. However, it's still very much a Metroidvania with various branching paths and a sprawling world map with many secrets. The movement is extremely smooth, with animations being bouncy, stretchy, and acrobatic. Getting into a flow state is very fun thanks to how all the animations feed into each other. Combat too is so smooth. The prince has quite a lot of moves in his arsenal, with new powers and attacks being unlockable upgrades. The game has a really well-made optional tutorial which can teach you how to chain your attacks into super satisfying combos. Here's an example. Sometimes it honestly feels like I'm playing a spectacle fighter, almost like a storm that may or may not be. Like and subscribe for more epic video game references. The game has a lot of combat, but it never feels like a chore thanks to just how many different ways of dispatching your enemies there are. The game also rarely locks you into rooms where you have to just fight a bunch of enemies over and over again to progress. Most of the time you're just able to run past enemies if you don't want to fight them, especially on backtracks. It also helps that the game is drop-dead gorgeous. It uses relatively realistic 3D models, but the effects are extremely stylized with super bright, contrasting colors with every slash, counter, and special move. It's such eye candy, especially during some of the boss fights. Just look at this! Every part of the gameplay is visually satisfying, and that's not mentioning the environmental design, especially the backgrounds. I was seriously floored by some of the areas in this game. Some areas even change depending on story progression, like this huge library which starts glowing after you've unlocked a specific thing. This game has had a very unfortunate history, and after playing it, all I can say is that it's a huge shame. However, I myself was as negative about this game's direction as everyone else before the game came out. I can't judge people too harshly for passing this game up, because the reveal trailer was truly not great. The fact the game didn't have the prince as the protagonist, the fact that it was 2D, and the fact that the music was this really gave a bad first impression for most fans of the series. The crazy thing is that the music here is actually completely different from what was used in the trailer. The soundtrack is fantastic, make no mistake, and it fits each area and battle really well. It really boggles my mind that the marketing team made the choices that they did. And in this case, it destroyed the interest of a lot of the potential players of Prince of Persia. It just sucks, man. It just sucks. And it really is unfair in my opinion. The game came out and went pretty much unnoticed. It managed to get a little bit of traction when it was released on Steam, but it wasn't enough. The studio behind the game was disbanded and the devs were scattered among different projects. One of those projects is allegedly a revival of the 3D Rayman games. Maybe if we're lucky, that one will also feature epic rap music in the trailer. I'm sorry, I just can't get over that. What were they thinking? What were they thinking? By the way, I have absolutely nothing against rap. I just don't think it was the right choice here, especially since the music in the actual game was so different. So that's it. Please give this game a try. I know the team behind the game was already disbanded due to poor sales. Ubisoft sucks, and we all know it. But the game had so much love and effort put into it that I can't not recommend this game to you all. I'm willing to bet that if you try it, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching my crazed rant about a game I really like. As a Prince of Persia fan, it's great we managed to get at least one more game in the franchise in 2024. Will there ever be another game? Who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and... Hey, do you hear that? What is that? What is that? It sounds like a jam. You thought this video was only about one Prince of Persia game from 2024. Boy, don't you look like a real doofus. There's a second game. And it is amazing. The Rogue Prince of Persia is an indie game helmed by Evil Empire Studios, which you might recognize as the creators of a little-known game, Dead Cells, and its DLCs. Maybe you've heard about it. Perhaps. The game was released into early access in late 2024 and has been receiving very positive reviews too. All 1,000 of them. Seriously, is this series cursed? What's even more crazy than a second Prince of Persia game releasing in 2024 is that the game is also a 2D side-scroller with fluid controls and tons of style. But this one is a roguelite, which has you tackling randomized levels and starting from the beginning should you die. And you will. As you traverse the areas, you collect soul shards, which you use to unlock persistent passive abilities and new trinkets and weapons that you randomly find during your runs, making yourself stronger with each subsequent run-through. First of all, the art style is so gorgeous. Very different from The Lost Crown, it goes for a hand-drawn, almost cartoon style, utilizing 3D models that are stylized to look like 2D drawings. Every area just pops with bright colors and beautiful backgrounds. Not only that, but the animation is buttery smooth. Every jump, hop, slash, slam is lovingly animated, which makes the gameplay feel extremely satisfying. What's even cooler is that the game encourages you to interact with its beautiful animations by having a flow meter, which increases your speed and can increase your damage or defense too with various upgrades. This incentivizes playing smoothly, and trying to keep the flow meter up is really gratifying both visually and gameplay-wise. And then there is the music. Now, I mentioned The Lost Crown has some fantastic music, especially some of the boss themes. But in this regard, The Rogue steals the prize. Wait a minute, I don't get it. He's a rogue, not a thief. Oh man, this joke doesn't make any sense. Who wrote this? Who wrote this? I'm sorry, guys, I'm sorry. This joke made no sense. This isn't me, and I let my community down. My content is to entertain, and I hope you can forgive me. Thank you, and sorry. Composed by a Persian-American electronic musician, Asadi, this soundtrack transports you to another universe, I swear. Each theme has a unique style which blends modern electronic sounds with genuine Persian instruments. It's a mix of worlds that I never would have imagined, but I'm so glad it exists. Just listen to this. It's mental. The music fits the levels and boss fights immaculately as you fly through the levels and dispatch enemies. I seriously cannot stop gushing about this soundtrack to all my friends. Even if you don't end up picking this game, please go listen to the soundtrack and support this artist. It's so good. As with The Lost Crown, I cannot recommend this game enough. And this game has the benefit of actually having active development. If you buy the game, you can support the devs and they absolutely deserve it. Seriously, please give it a try. The game is still in early access, but it is constantly being updated with new content, weapons, and features. Most recently, the game received unlockable skins for the prince, which is always fun. As of right now, the game doesn't have its final act, so you might want to hold off if you're looking for a complete experience. But in my opinion, there is more than enough content here to justify the price, especially with the highly replayable nature of it being a roguelike. Great game, please enjoy. The series has had a really interesting history up until now. It started as a 2D game, and that fluid acrobatic movement influenced the following 3D entries. You can see it in the Sands of Time trilogy, in a way that every movement action almost feels like slow motion, in order to show you each lovingly crafted frame of animation on the prince's body. But now, we're in the reverse situation. The 3D games added a lot of new ideas into the mix, expanding upon the jumping and climbing of the original game by introducing not only acrobatic movement options, but also blending those new movement options into the combat as well. I feel like this focus on fluid and highly acrobatic movement became the identity of the Prince of Persia games. And it's this identity that's being carried forward with these two new games in 2024. Although they both reverted back to the 2D style, they adapt many of the 3D games' concepts, and they do it in vastly different ways too. So as the final part of this video, I want to focus on comparing the two games in terms of how they carry the torch of the Prince of Persia series. Let's start with how these games handle wall running. Wall running, especially horizontally, is a pretty major hurdle for 2D games due to the nature of, well, everything. Lost Crown approaches this task a little more conservatively. While the game doesn't have wall running in the traditional sense, early on in the game you unlock the ability to do a sort of ghost step. This allows you to do a faux wall run forward, regardless of where you are. It's an interesting way to tackle the challenge of 2D wall runs. It's essentially just an air dash, which many 2D games use, but the animation and the flavor of it retains that spirit of Prince of Persia. I really like this approach. It's a little bit conservative, but it focuses on conveying the image and feeling of wall running, rather than the mechanical possibilities of actually running from wall to wall. It's a trade-off, but I think it works for what it is. Now, the rogue says, "Watch this!" The devs of the Rogue Prince of Persia decided to try and tackle the concept of wall running in a very direct way. 2D games don't have walls to run on horizontally? Let's add a back wall to every level that you can use at any time. It is a genius 10D chess move. It allows you to always wall run at basically any point of the level. Not only is this fun as heck, but the rare occasion where there isn't a background wall suddenly feels like a big challenge because you don't have access to one of your key moves. It's absolutely amazing. Not only does this make you feel like a gigantic badass, but it also makes the act of moving around alone extremely satisfying, as you can string together wall runs basically at any time during regular traversal. And like I always say, the better the flow, the faster we'll go. The Prince in the Sands of Time trilogy had a very robust set of acrobatic combat moves. They usually required you to use the jump button in conjunction with the light or heavy attacks. The move I remember the most is the one where you jump over the enemy and slash down at them. It was really awesome, and it made you feel like you had a real advantage over the enemy. It felt amazing to pull it off. And I definitely didn't spam it when I was a kid for easy kills. In terms of combat, once again, we have a bit of a different approach between the two games. The Lost Crown doesn't necessarily try to replicate the moves of the previous games, and I think that's fine thematically. Sargon is a different guy. Of course he'd fight a little differently. That said, he has an extremely robust moveset. You can slash, jump slash, kick, flip, shoot, slam, oh my! It's honestly a little overwhelming at first. Luckily, that tutorial I mentioned before really does help you get the grips of all the available moves. This complexity in the moveset means that once you get confident at fighting, it's like you're playing Devil May Cry. It also helps that enemies have a pretty nice variation in moves and various damage immunities too. In a room full of enemies, you have to problem solve a little if you want to get through it without taking damage. And some of the optional combat challenges the game offers will really test your skills. The Rogue, on the other hand, veers in a different direction. I talked about how the game emphasizes the flow state with its smooth animations and a literal flow meter below your health bar. This emphasis is felt in the combat as well. In this game, the Prince has access to a variety of weapons with different moves and playstyles, but what they all have in common is that their movesets are all designed to maintain your movement and your flow. You can go from a wall run, to a slam, to a kick, to a jump attack, and continue wall running towards the goal in the span of 1 second. It's amazing. Enemies are usually dispatched much quicker than in the Lost Crown, with some posing more specific challenges such as shields that have to be broken or homing attacks. This means you are always encouraged to get through a bunch of enemies as quickly as possible, since killing them quickly also grants flow points. One of the ways that the game encourages this constantly moving attack approach is by bringing back the jump move, baby! Bet you didn't think there was a point to me mentioning my favorite move. See, this is what I like to call a jump to conclusions. I'm very sorry about the bad joke. I let my community down, and I promise I won't do it again. Just like in the Sands of Time trilogy, you can hop over enemies and end up behind them by pressing one of the shoulder buttons. However, now, the move doesn't impede your forward movement. In fact, timed well, the move generates flow points, and it's your choice if you want to stay and fight or just keep on moving. It's a great update to the classic move that fits the playstyle of this game. It's such a power trip to just be flying through the enemies with all the movement options given to you. It almost makes it feel like the enemies are just little speed boosts along the way. Speed boosts that will kick your teeth in if you're not careful, maybe. Seriously, this game doesn't mess around. It's not an easy game. This might be the shortest section, as I don't want to spoil too much of the games, But I'd like to touch on how they handle the concept of time reversal, because they're once again quite different from each other. In the Sands of Time trilogy, the whole plot revolves around the titular Sands of Time. They define the enemies you fought and the abilities of the prince. The time reversal mechanic was directly tied to the plot, and I think that's neat. In The Lost Crown, the story revolves around a time anomaly. Mount Kaf has time flowing at different speeds for different people trapped in its surroundings. It's a very interesting concept, and it does tie in at least a little to the Sands of Time trilogy, as one of the collectibles you can find around the map is literally the Sands of Time. While the game doesn't feature the time reversal mechanic directly, without spoiling anything, there will be a moment in the game where a player familiar with the Prince of Persia series will do the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. It happened to me, it will happen to you too. The Rogue uses its own time concept to directly explain the roguelike nature of the game. In this game, the prince is trapped in a time loop after being struck down in a raid by the Han army. This time reversal triggers every time you die, as you wake up back at the base camp where you can unlock new weapons and upgrades. It's a very neat idea, not only for a roguelike, but it fits especially nicely in a Prince of Persia roguelike. I like the ludonarrative harmony of a roguelike acknowledging each failed attempt as another run in the loop. There's something really exciting about your character retaining experiences and memories from previous loops, and the game leverages that by having quests that involve doing things through multiple runs, with the prince having memories from previous failed attempts. In my opinion, both of these games do a phenomenal job of carrying on the legacy of the games before them, but also being their own things. The Lost Crown's focus on an expansive and intricate combat system, and the Rogue's focus on the flow state and flying through levels at breakneck pace really set these games apart from each other and offer truly unique experiences to the player. At a glance, a passerby might think that the games are quite similar, but I hope that this video could serve as a showcase of their many differences. It really is amazing that we got 2 whole Prince of Persia games in 2024. Even though it's unlikely we'll see a continuation of The Lost Crown, it's still an amazing game, well worth your time. And likewise, the Rogue is still in active development, which means that it can continue to grow and improve. So that's definitely worth your support. Now I'm really done yapping, I promise. But I would like to hear what you think of the Prince of Persia series yourself. Have you ever played it? And if not, I hope this video got you at least a little bit curious in any of the games I talked about. I really hope you can check them out in the future. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed making this video and I want to make more. So if you liked it, I'd really appreciate a like or a subscribe, you know, all the YouTuber stuff. Now if you excuse me, I'm gonna go learn parkour in real life. I mean, how hard can it be?